Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into a true rock classic, Pink Floyd's Comfortably Numb.
Yeah, it's one of those songs, isn't it? Instantly recognizable.
Absolutely. And our mission today is to sort of unpack why it's so enduring. We'll look at where it came from, the story and the lyrics, the music itself, and its role on the wall.
And we're drawing on, analyses, lyrics, interviews with the band, all that stuff.
Right, and what's really interesting to kick off with is that the music, the basic idea, it wasn't even originally meant for Pink Floyd.
No, it actually started life as a demo David Gilmour was putting together for his own solo album back in '78.
Wow. Okay, so he had this kernel of a song for himself.
Exactly. But he apparently felt pretty quickly that it had something more, something bigger, something that really belonged with Pink Floyd.
That's fascinating. So even in that early stage, maybe on his solo demo, he saw its potential for the band.
Yeah, it seems so. That original demo apparently had the chorus chords down, and Gilmour was just humming the melody over it.
And the verses,
Yeah,
they were in E minor initially.
that's right. Gilmour's initial idea was E minor, but then Roger Waters shifted it to B minor later on.
Okay, why the change? Was it just a musical preference or?
Well, the thinking is it probably had a lot to do with the lyrics Waters was developing for The Wall. B minor has that darker, maybe more introspective quality.
Yeah, it feels heavier somehow.
Exactly. It kind of aligns better with that feeling of detachment and unease that Waters was writing about for the character Pink. It sort of pulls you into that headspace immediately.
Makes sense. And speaking of the lyrics, the core feeling, that comfortably numb state, it came from something very real for Waters, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's rooted in a, well, pretty grim experience he had during the In the Flesh tour in 1977. He came down with hepatitis.
Oof, hepatitis. And didn't he have severe stomach issues too?
Yeah, really bad stomach cramps. Just debilitating pain.
So how does that connect to the song?
Well, right before a show in Philadelphia, he was in such bad shape, but obviously the show had to go on, so a doctor gave him an injection, a tranquilizer.
To get him through the performance.
Exactly. But the effect was intense. Waters described feeling completely numb, like he couldn't move his arms. He said it was the longest 2 hours of my life, just standing there, playing, but feeling totally detached.
Wow. You can really hear that in the lyrics, that sense of disconnection.
Definitely. That specific feeling, that numbness, while still having to function, became the direct inspiration. And fun fact, the song's working title for a while was just The Doctor.
Very literal.
Yeah, straight to the point.
So we have this very personal origin for the lyrics, but then it gets woven into this much bigger story, The Wall.
Right. And The Wall itself is this huge exploration of, isolation, abandonment, building these psychological defenses against trauma.
The character Pink, the rock star, he's dealing with so much, isn't he? His father's death, the overbearing mother, the pressures of being famous.
All becoming bricks in this metaphorical wall he's building around himself.
And didn't that whole concept, The Wall, get sparked by another incident on that same '77 tour? Something involving Waters and a fan.
Yeah, that infamous moment where he apparently spat on a fan in the audience. He felt so alienated from the huge stadium crowds. That act of separation kind of became a catalyst for the whole album theme.
So within that whole narrative, Comfortably Numb becomes this absolutely pivotal moment.
It really does. It's showing Pink's descent. He's retreating further and further into himself, and this song captures that shift, that detachment from reality.
Okay, let's dive into the lyrics themselves. The opening verse, that's the doctor trying to reach Pink.
Yeah, you hear that voice. Hello, is there anybody in there? Just nod if you can hear me. Is there anyone at home?
Instantly establishes that distance. He's there, but he's not there.
Exactly. And the doctor's lines, come on now, I hear you're feeling down. Well, I can ease your pain, get you on your feet again. They sound so routine, almost dismissive.
Like he's just going through the motions. No real empathy there.
Not really. It feels very focused on just, fixing the immediate problem, getting Pink on stage.
And asking for basic facts or where does it hurt? It just misses the point entirely, doesn't it? It's not about a physical hurt in that sense.
Precisely. It highlights that complete lack of understanding of Pink's deeper psychological pain. It sets up that clash perfectly. The outside world demanding things versus Pink's internal state.
And then Pink's response in that first chorus, it's chilling.
There is no pain, you are receding, a distant ship's smoke on the horizon. Such powerful imagery.
That sense of things just fading away, becoming blurry. You are only coming through in waves. Your lips move, but I can't hear what you're saying.
It's like a broken connection, isn't it? Total communication breakdown, distortion.
And the line that just hits so hard. This is not how I am. I have become comfortably numb.
It's a statement of fact, but there's a sadness there, too. Like, he knows this isn't right. It's not him.
Yeah, a lament almost. And that core idea of finding comfort in numbness.
That's the paradox, isn't it? It's a defense mechanism. Shutting down because the feelings are too much.
Then the doctor comes back in the second verse. More direct this time.
Okay. Just a little pinprick. There'll be no more. That famous pinprick.
Widely assumed to be the drug injection,
That's
right?
the common interpretation, yeah. But you may feel a little sick. Then straight back to business. Can you stand up? I do believe it's working. Good. That'll keep you going through the show. Come on, it's time to go.
Zero concern for his actual well-being. Just get him on stage.
The show must go on, and that pressure, that intervention, it triggers something in Pink. A flashback.
Right. When I was a child, I had a fever. My hand felt just like two balloons.
Now I've got that feeling once again. It connects this current numb feeling directly back to being sick as a child, that delirium.
So this feeling of detachment isn't entirely new for him. It's a recurring sensation.
Seems like it. And then, I can't explain, you would not understand. Just reinforces that total isolation. He's trapped in it.
The contrast is brutal. The doctor's clinical actions versus Pink's inner world.
A massive gulf between them, which leads us into that second chorus and more childhood memories.
When I was a child, I caught a fleeting glimpse out of the corner of my eye. What do you think that glimpse represents?
It's beautifully ambiguous, isn't it? Could be anything precious that's lost. Innocence, maybe. A moment of connection. Lost potential.
Something you can't quite grasp. I turned to look, but it was gone. I cannot put my finger on it now. That feeling is so universal.
Absolutely. And then the killer lines. The child is grown, the dream is gone.
Ugh. Just devastating. That sense of irreversible loss.
And how that loss fuels the detachment, builds the wall even higher. It's all connected.
We absolutely have to talk about the music itself, too. Those key changes are so important.
Oh, massively. The verses in B minor, they immediately set that darker, introspective mood. You feel Pink's withdrawal.
But then the choruses shift to D major. Much brighter, almost uplifting, anthemic even.
Yeah, it's quite a contrast. You could read it as Pink putting on that comfortably numb front, masking the turmoil underneath with this big major key sound.
That musical shift really drives home the tension, doesn't it? The outward appearance versus the inner reality.
Totally. And then the solos.
Oh, the solos. I mean, Legendary doesn't even cover it. Two of the greatest ever recorded.
Arguably, yeah. Gilmour at his absolute peak. The first solo, after the first chorus, it's over the D major chords.
It feels more searching, melodic, maybe a bit dreamlike.
Exactly. Concise, beautifully phrased. It kind of reflects Pink's mind drifting, floating away, like that distant ship smoke.
It's sort of gentle fading out. But the second solo? Wow.
The second solo is something else entirely. It comes at the end, back over the B minor verse progression.
It's just huge. So much raw emotion packed in there.
It's longer, it's more intense, more distorted. It feels like all the pain and turmoil that Pink can't express in words is just pouring out through the guitar.
Like the numbness finally breaks.
Yeah.
And the real feeling underneath erupts.
Precisely. It conveys that yearning, that anguish, in a way words just couldn't. The first solo is almost restrained. The second is pure, visceral passion, maybe showing the numbness wearing off.
That's a great way to put it. Even the tempo contributes, doesn't it? It's quite slow.
Yeah, it plods along around, 60-something beats per minute. It definitely adds to that feeling of lethargy, detachment, being weighed down.
And there's a lot of space in the music, too, especially around the solos.
That spaciousness really enhances the feeling of isolation, gives you room for introspection. The slow tempo, the space, it creates this sonic world that perfectly matches Pink's internal state.
So, pulling all this together, the personal story, the lyrics, the music, how do people interpret the song's overall meaning?
Well, there's the literal level, obviously.
Right.
Based on Waters' experience, Doctor medicates rock stars so he can perform. The Doctor as the music industry, Pink as the suffering artist.
But it goes deeper than that for most people, right?
Oh, yeah. The more common take is metaphorical. It's about emotional isolation, dissociation, using numbness as a shield against pain, trauma.
That feeling of being comfortably numb as emotional detachment.
Exactly. And that resonates with people dealing with depression, anxiety, maybe substance abuse issues, where numbing becomes a way to cope, even if it's unhealthy.
It also feels like a commentary on fame itself. how isolating it can be, pushing people to rely on things just to get through.
Definitely captures that aspect of the rock star life, the dehumanizing pressures.
And thinking about its place in the wall again, where does it fit in Pink's whole journey?
It comes at a point where Pink is already seriously withdrawn, shut down. The manager and doctor showing up is this intrusion.
They're trying to pull him out, but not for the right reasons.
Right. They want him to perform, not to heal. So their intervention, trying to force him back out there, it just becomes another brick in his wall.
Because they're prioritizing the show over him.
Exactly. It reinforces his isolation. And that state of being comfortably numb, that temporary drug-induced escape, it actually stops him from facing his real issues.
So it prevents any real healing.
Yeah. And you could argue that being forced to perform while in that state actually pushes him further towards the complete breakdown and that fascist persona he adopts later on.
It's chilling how it all connects.
Oh, yeah.
What did the band members themselves say about it? Waters was always clear about the personal link, right?
Yeah, he's spoken a lot about how directly it came from that experience, feeling like everything was just suddenly wrong.
And Gilmour.
Gilmour talks more about the musical side, obviously. His initial demo, the collaboration with Waters, which was, often tense by that point.
I bet.
But he often points to that second solo as a real moment of connection, pouring the feeling out. He also acknowledges they argued quite a bit about the arrangement.
And the producer, Bob Ezrin, he played a role too.
Yeah, he was apparently a key figure in pushing for the orchestral arrangement, those strings that add so much atmosphere, and probably mediating some of those Waters-Gilmour disagreements.
It sounds like a classic case of creative friction leading to something amazing.
Absolutely. It's this perfect storm of personal pain, narrative context, lyrical depth, and sheer musical brilliance.
So wrapping this up, Comfortably Numb is just this incredibly rich song. It starts from a real event, becomes central to this huge concept album, has lyrics you can unpack forever, and music that's just timeless.
It really captures that feeling of detachment, of isolation in such a powerful way.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. Think about that phrase, comfortably numb. Where might that feeling show up in your own life or just out there in the world? When does it feel like a shield?
And maybe, when does that shield become a barrier? A barrier to really understanding yourself or connecting with others or just engaging fully?
What are the walls we all build, maybe without even realizing it? And what would it actually take to start recognizing them, maybe even taking them down? Something to think about.